Now, whoa, wait a second. Sounds familiar, right? Let's look at the facts again. Cohiba is established formally in 1968 by Cuba Tobacco. It already exists. 1969, Trinidad is created, as is Davidoff at El Lagrito. 1970, Rivera suddenly resigns due to things not being done optimally. 1970 also, Avelino Lara takes over. Cuba Tobacco asks him to create a new blend unlike any other in existence. These are all facts. Another fact is that Trinidad and Cohiba were both diplomatic gifts, but Cohiba already existed as such when Trinidad was created. Why do you need two? Lara claims that the Trinidads were of higher quality. Martinez claims that they were of lower quality due to no third barrel fermentation, and Castro claims to know nothing at all about Trinidad, even though they were diplomatic gifts representing his country. Very weird. Very, very, very weird. Now, if you already had Cohiba as diplomatic gifts, which, by the way, we know 650,000 plus were being produced a year, so many that Eduardo Rivera wanted to call in somebody to set up a whole brand to sell, then why the hell do you need another cigar just for diplomatic gifts? You're really going to make a second low-level... So what? You're going to give Spain Cohibas and Italy Trinidads, and then the guy finds out that you gave him the low-end stuff? Like, you can't do that. You can't mix it. Gee, so you wanted to give me a gift, but you didn't want to give me that good of a gift. Your country is known for its amazing cigars, but you decide to give me a not so amazing cigar, not the best stuff you have. No sense at all there. Okay, so now here's where I lay my claim. I claim, and of course this is all guesswork, that the third barrel fermentation is the key to all of this. It really is, for all the reasons we were just saying. I believe that the original Cohiba blend created by Rivera did not use this process. That it was later introduced by Avelino Lara when Cuba Tobacco told him to create a blend unlike any other in existence. If that's the blend that was to be Cohiba, and Cohiba was already in existence, then why do it? I stated that perhaps the blend was sold to Davidoff. Trinidad appearing at the same time makes this even more interesting. Perhaps Trinidad was basically a secret project, that when Zeno bought the Cohiba blend and Cuba Tobacco had to change it, they secretly kept producing the original Cohiba under the Trinidad name. So you see what's going on here? Trinidad is set up basically as a front. Cohiba's already in existence. Zeno Davidoff walks in, can't buy the factory, says, fine, but I want the blend. They're forced to sell it to him. Selling Rivera's blend to Davidoff pisses him off enough to get out. He leaves. Now, Zeno Davidoff has Cohiba. Cuba has no diplomatic gifts. Cuba Tobacco gets on the phone with Avelino Lara, tells him, listen, we need you to redo this. We need you to make Cohiba, but not Cohiba. So he takes the Cohiba blend, adds a third barrel fermentation process, and out pops the brand new Cohiba. No one will ever know, but at the same time, they say to themselves, you know what though? We still want the original Cohiba on the side, because that's the blend that Castro likes. And Castro can't trust any other cigar in the world. Castro just can't, even if the original Cohiba became Davidoff, Castro can't just start picking up Davidoffs and smoking them. He needs a blend that's not out on the market, that he knows has not been in circulation, that he knows is untouched by anybody, rolled by only one guy, because assassination attempts were a very, very real thing. And poisoning his cigars is not a joke. That's a very real project that was in the works. So Castro doesn't want to smoke anything else. He wants his Cohibas. He doesn't want the new Cohiba, and he doesn't want a Davidoff because he doesn't want to be poisoned. So he has them set up Trinidad, which basically is the original Cohiba blend, not for the public, made only for him. It also would explain why Avelino Lara may have slipped in an interview claiming that, oh yeah, those were the cigars that Castro smoked. Castro says, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know what Trinidad is. It's also very interesting that Trinidad was only made in the Fumadore format, which is, for all intents and purposes, a Lancero, which is the exact shape that Castro would want to smoke. All very interesting. So, as for everything I just said, that would be a reason to claim that it was actually Trinidad that was the superior cigar. Why else would he do that? Especially if he was, creating the new Cohiba blend, unless perhaps he felt bad about whatever it was that happened to Rivera. Perhaps he was trying to secretly give him some credit for his blend or something. I don't think so. I think he slipped in the interview. I think he said the truth. I think he said, yeah, Trinidad's, that's what Castro was smoking. And those were the better cigars, because that was the original Cohiba blend. It was kind of like maybe at the same time as it was the truth, it was also kind of a little bump to Rivera that, hey, your blend was right on, mine is just what they had me do. Anyway, so let's get this lit back up before things change too much. I'm going to take this band off now too, actually. As it gets hotter, especially on that relight I had to do right there, I always take that into account. Big blast of vanilla flavor. That flavor, I'm starting to really attribute that a lot with heat in cigars. Anyway, so let me just read some more of my writing, some of my ideas on this. I think you're starting to get the whole picture now. And if you're confused, please go back, look at the episode again, look at all the points I made, and even jot them down if you have to, and you'll really start to see that what I'm saying makes a lot of sense. So, because I'm not a conspiracy theory type of guy. I'm really not. I'm just interested in cigars. I don't care about all the other shit. So when I read any one article about the history of Cohiba, the story is one that makes the brand seem mysterious enough in its own right. But when you start looking into the whole picture, what Avelino Lara claims, what Adriano Martinez claims, what Fidel Castro says, and what Rivera himself says and won't say, it becomes quite obvious that the truth lies somewhere between the lines, and that the brand is far more mysterious than what any one story makes it out to be. Pair that with the facts of Cohiba, Trinidad, and Davidoff all being in the same secret factory at the same time, and it is one hell of a fascinating story. In fact, maybe it's just me being biased, but in fact, I think it's almost good enough to make a fucking movie. Really. Cohiba, the movie. It's like just one of those things. Maybe not a mainstream theater type of movie, but definitely some kind of side project cigar. Anyway, if by some chance you ever see it happen, I said it first. Because this kind of shit has happened to me before. It really has. And now I have proof on video. If you see this video and you're like, wow, I never knew that. Maybe we should do... Please, at least put my name in the fucking credits. Anyway. But it isn't over yet. It doesn't end there. Page 12. So, after all of this stuff that we just talked about, decades later, Cohiba is released in 1982 in conjunction with the World Cup in Spain in just 3 vitolas, the Panatella, Corona Especial, and the infamous Lancero. It was later officially released to the public for sale in 1984. That's when it hit the shelves, really. It was the whole World Cup Spain thing, and then 84 is when it hit the shelves. In 1989, 3 more vitolas were added, the Robusto, the Exquisito, and the Esplendido. These first 6 sizes are now known as the Linea Classica, or classic line. In 1992, Habanos S.A. launched the first 3 sizes of the Linea 1492, also known as, aka, the Siglo Series, to commemorate Columbus's voyage to the Americas, with each size named for a century since Columbus's discovery. This is the Siglo Series, not because Columbus discovered America, but because he basically, without getting too deep into it, discovered cigars. He discovered the Tainos, the native peoples of Cuba, and Cohiba, the tobacco they smoked. So, Siglo meaning century, as we just said, they were named for a century after. Siglo I, Siglo II, Siglo III, century 1, 2, 3. Released in 1992, with the rest following in 2002. Siglo IV, Siglo V, Siglo VI. Now, it's also, again, who pops in? Da-da-da, Davidoff. It's interesting to note here that Davidoff ceased production in 1991. And this is something I long suspected myself, but it seems to have already been verified, as when I did some research I found that in Min Ron Nee's Illustrated Encyclopedia of Cigars, which sadly I do not own yet, I do, however, I am able to find quips here and there online. Brilliant information coming out of that book that you can't find anywhere else, really. For those of you out there who are like, it's just a big $1,000 picture book, it's not. There's really a lot of cool shit in there, so shut the fuck up. Alright? Now, in Min Ron Nee's Illustrated Encyclopedia of Cigars, Adriano Martinez, again, confirms that the Linea 1492 was created to fill the gap left by Davidoff's discontinuation. So, I say that if Davidoff no longer makes Cuban cigars, he no longer needs the blend. Perhaps Siglo Linea 1492 is the Davidoff blend, or at least something very, very close to it. They needed something that would prove to work, to be able to financially bring them back from losing Davidoff. Not only Davidoff, but Dunhill also left in 1991. We kind of discussed why during the Trinidad episode, and I'm not going to get into that here because it's too much, not enough time, too little cigar. But basically, Dunhill and Davidoff both left Cuba Tobacco in 1991. They both closed down. So there were, and those were basically, at the time, Cuba Tobacco's 2 most, prestigious as far as wealth and class and, upscale, their most premium cigars, their most expensive cigars. So they needed something that would work. I don't know if they really used the Davidoff blend or the Dunhill blend or if it was a brand new blend. None of it really matters right now because no matter what you're smoking, it's not the fucking same. It's all different tobacco at this point. They keep it as close as possible, I guess. But as we discussed before when we started talking about the history of Criollo and Corojo, tobacco is no longer the same in Cuban cigars. Hasn't been since about that time, actually. But enough hearsay. Let's move on. So, more interesting to me is this. That here comes 1992, Dunhill leaves, Davidoff leaves. Quickly, they need new cigars to fill this big gap left by these 2 major premium brands leaving. So they make more Cohibas instead of releasing Trinidad. Trinidad is still way in the back. So after all of this, Trinidad is still not released. Not until years after that, 1998, it's officially released. Years after Davidoff is well gone. So perhaps if any of the previously stated holds true, or carries any weight at all, they didn't want to release them because they were the same blend. Remember? Well, we said Cohiba was sold to Davidoff. So they made a new Cohiba with the 3rd fermentation barrel, but the original Cohiba was still needed, wanted by Castro, so they codenamed it Trinidad. And long after Zeno was well out of the picture, they released Trinidad. Why else would they hold it back? There's no reason to hold Trinidad's back. In 1992, especially at a time, they need money. All their biggest brands are leaving. So all they do is make 3 lousy new Cohibas, the Siglo Series? That's fucking crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Why not release Trinidad? There had to be a reason. What I'm saying, that's my reason. That's what I think. So, like I just said, they didn't want to release them because they were in essence the same blend as Davidoff. Both the original Cohiba, one sold to Davidoff, and one made in secret. And so that, my friends, is Cohiba. It is what I know, what I don't know, and what I think about Cohiba. And as you can see, as much research and knowledge as I put together, there is still just nothing there but a huge question mark. What is it really? What are we smoking now? Is this the blend that Abelino Lara created, or is it the blend that Rivera created? The 3rd barrel fermentation, was that Lara or Rivera? I think it was Lara. I already said everything I have to say. But that's Cohiba. Always an interesting brand. One of the handful of post-revolution brands in existence, along with Diplomáticos, created 1966. Diplomáticos is interesting. Although it's a very small brand, it was never a secret brand. It was actually supposedly meant to be a lower scale version of Monte Cristo, more affordable version of Monte Cristo. Quai d'Orsay, 1973-1974. Cuaba, 1996. Vegueros and Vegas Robena, 1997. Trinidad, 1998. And San Cristobal, 1999. So, I like that period, 96, 97, 98, 99. You have a whole bunch of new Cuban brands released. Say goodnight, Max.